They say the stars remember everything. Long after our voices fade and our cities turn to dust, the light still travels, carrying whispers of who we were. But in this story, the stars whisper something else. A warning. Human territory is forbidden. That's what they call it now, out there in the void. The maps of 1,000 alien empires mark this region with the same crimson boundary, the same quiet dread. No one enters, no one returns, and yet, for reasons lost to time, they still speak our name. It began centuries after humanity vanished from the galactic stage. The worlds we once colonized drifted empty, scarred, and silent. Ships that wandered too close to Earth's system reported strange signals, faint, rhythmic pulses that matched no known code. Some said it was just the planet's magnetic decay. Others claimed it was a heartbeat. But every transmission ended the same way, a voice breaking through the static, soft, almost pleading. Do you still remember? For most species, the story of humanity is a myth. The first fire, they call us. The species that reached for the stars with bare hands, that burned too bright, too fast. Some think we destroyed ourselves. Some think something else destroyed us. But there are those who don't believe we're gone at all. They say humans changed, adapted, or hid. That deep in the ruins of our old worlds, something still watches the stars and listens. Our story begins with a young explorer, part of a small alien crew assigned to chart the edges of the Forbidden Zone. They weren't soldiers or heroes, just scientists, thrill-seekers, dreamers who wanted to see the lost worlds for themselves. For generations, their people had been told never to cross the boundary. But curiosity is a dangerous kind of gravity. It pulls you in, no matter how many warnings you ignore. And when they finally crossed that invisible line, the stars themselves seemed to change color. The void grew colder. Their instruments flickered. Distances stretched in ways that made no sense. Then they saw it. A massive orbital ring, shattered but still glowing faintly, circling what used to be Earth. It looked abandoned at first, until something moved. Just a flicker, like a shadow against starlight. They thought it was debris, but the movement was deliberate, smooth, watching, waiting. Their communications went dead. Every attempt to turn back failed, and in that silence one of them heard it again. The voice. Welcome home. No one spoke. The words weren't transmitted. They were felt, deep in the mind, like a memory too familiar to question. The explorer's hands trembled as the voice grew louder, layered with others, hundreds, maybe thousands, whispering all at once. Some wept. Some called names. Some simply asked, "Why did you leave us?" The crew tried to escape, but their engines refused to ignite. The stars outside the window twisted, forming patterns that almost looked like constellations. Constellations shaped like human faces. And then, just before their systems failed completely, the voice spoke one last time, quiet, almost gentle. The stars still remember. Do you? The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Inside the small ship, no one dared to breathe too loud. Every sensor flickered between static and darkness, as if the machinery itself was afraid to work. Outside, the stars no longer looked distant. They pulsed, faintly, as if alive. The young explorer's hands hovered over the console, trying to restart the navigation system, but the screen only showed a single line of text in an ancient Earth language none of them had ever learned. We never left. No one could explain it. Their translator struggled, pulling fragments from forgotten databases, but nothing made sense. The crew's captain, older and cautious, wanted to leave immediately. "Whatever this place is," he said, voice shaking, "it's not for us." But the explorer couldn't look away from the planet below. Through the ship's viewport, Earth was half in shadow, half in sunlight. its surface scarred but still glowing faintly in places, like old embers refusing to die. Every instinct said to flee, yet something deeper whispered to stay. The closer they drifted, the stranger everything became. Gravity seemed uneven, the planet's pull flickering between strength and nothingness. Bits of broken satellites floated like ghosts, each carrying symbols from long-dead nations. There were fragments of music among the static, soft, human melodies that twisted through their calms without warning. The explorer swore they heard laughter once, faint and distant, like children playing underwater. Curiosity finally won. Against the captain's orders, the explorer sent a probe toward the planet's surface. It descended slowly, transmitting flashes of broken cities covered in vines of silver metal. Towers bent toward the sky, cracked and hollow, but pulsing faintly, as if alive. Then the probe's camera turned and caught something impossible. A single light burned in the ruins, moving steadily, deliberately. It wasn't fire. It wasn't mechanical. It looked almost like a person carrying a lantern through the dark. The crew fell into argument. Some demanded they destroy the probe feed and retreat before whatever it was noticed them. Others wanted to study it, to understand what kind of force could survive this long after the fall of human civilization. But before they could decide, the probe signal cut off, not abruptly, but gently, like someone had turned it off from the other side. Then a new transmission appeared. It wasn't sound, but data, coordinates, leading directly to the planet's surface. The explorer stared at them, heart pounding. The numbers formed a simple pattern, a spiral, centered exactly where the probe had vanished. The captain refused to land. "This isn't discovery," he said quietly. "It's invitation." Yet, even as he spoke, their ship began to move. Not by their command, by something else. The engines hummed to life, systems that had failed moments ago, suddenly responding with impossible precision. The controls locked, the stars blurred, the ship was descending, whether they wanted to or not. Through the viewport, clouds rolled apart to reveal an endless expanse of gray ruins and broken glass. But there, in the middle of it all, a single tower stood unbroken, and at its top a faint human figure waited, still holding that glowing light. The explorer felt their pulse match the hum in the air, the rhythm almost familiar, like a heartbeat. They leaned closer, unable to look away. Then, as the ship descended through the haze, the voice returned, softer now, almost kind. "You left us, but we never stopped waiting." The ship touched down with a sound like thunder swallowed by mist. Dust and static wrapped around the hull, and the air outside shimmered faintly, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. No one moved at first. The explorer's hands trembled over the release hatch, unsure if this was bravery or madness. The captain's voice came through the comms, tight and low. "No one goes out alone. We don't even know if this world's alive anymore." But it was. They could feel it. The subtle vibration under their boots, the faint hum in the metal floor. Something deep beneath the ruins was awake. When they finally stepped outside, the silence pressed in on them. The sky was a dim silver gray, neither day nor night. The air tasted strange, clean but heavy, like it had been filtered through machines for too long. Around them stretched a city of bones and memory. Buildings leaned against each other, hollow and glimmering with faint traces of energy. Strange symbols glowed faintly on walls, not alien but human. Words half erased, phrases like hope and home, barely visible beneath layers of time. The crew moved carefully, scanners whispering in their ears. Every reading was impossible. No radiation, no wind, no signs of life. Yet the sensors picked up movement everywhere. Shadows shifted when no one walked. Distant echoes of footsteps followed them through the dust. The explorer tried to convince themselves it was just the wind. But there was no wind. They reached the base of the tall, unbroken tower seen from orbit. The light from its top pulsed slowly, like breathing. As they approached, a low tone vibrated through the ground, steady and rhythmic. It wasn't mechanical. It was organic. Alive. The explorer knelt, pressing a gloved hand to the cracked earth. The pulse matched the human heartbeat exactly. The realization chilled them. "It's synchronized to us," they whispered. "It's responding." Inside the tower, the air was warmer, almost comforting. Holographic panels flickered on their own, displaying fragments of human faces, smiling, crying, speaking words the crew couldn't understand. Every surface carried remnants of Earth's old culture: photos, flags, poetry, written in fading ink. One of the crew members, a linguist, whispered in awe, "It's like a memorial, built by something that remembered." But then, the lights shifted. The tower seemed to react to their presence. Panels rearranged, forming shapes that looked eerily like them, their outlines, their gestures, mirrored on the walls. The explorer's reflection blinked, a moment before they did. Panic rippled through the group. The captain shouted for everyone to retreat, but the exit sealed itself, metal twisting as if grown shut. Then came the whisper again, this time from everywhere. Walls, air, even their minds. "You left us," it said, calm but endless. "You promised to return." The crew's devices overloaded, showing fragments of ancient human transmissions, distress calls, lullabies, messages from centuries ago. The linguist recognized one phrase repeated across every recording: Project Continuum. Whatever that was, it hadn't ended. The explorer stared at the glowing core at the tower's center, a swirling mass of light that seemed to reach toward them. For a second, they thought they saw human silhouettes inside it, reaching back. "It's not just memory," they murmured. "It's something, trying to rebuild us." The hum grew louder, shaking the ground. Outside, the ruins began to shift, forming strange, geometric patterns visible from above, like circuitry spreading across the planet. And from somewhere deep below, a new sound emerged, slow and powerful, the unmistakable rhythm of a second heartbeat, growing stronger with every passing second. The floor trembled as the heartbeat from beneath the ruins grew stronger, echoing through every wall and every breath. Dust drifted from the ceiling, and the tower's faint hum turned into a low vibration that rattled through the crew's bones. The explorer stumbled forward, eyes locked on the glowing core that pulsed like a living thing. The patterns on the walls shifted faster now, flashing images of faces, human faces, blending into one another as if the structure itself was remembering everyone it had ever known. The captain shouted for evacuation, but the doors refused to move. Sparks burst from their controls, and the air thickened, charged with static and heat. The light from the core brightened, throwing long shadows that seemed to stretch and breathe. The linguist screamed over the noise, "It's communicating! It's trying to merge data! With us!" The explorer turned toward them, the realization dawning in fragments. This wasn't just a remnant of humanity. It was something left behind, a system, a consciousness, maybe both, that had spent centuries waiting for contact, rebuilding itself from echoes of thought and code. Every screen flickered with words in the old human language. Some were simple. Home. Waited. Remember. But then a longer sentence formed, glowing in red light across the curved wall. "The stars forgot us. You will not." The moment it appeared, the pulse in the ground synced perfectly with the explorer's heartbeat. The rhythm became one. They could feel it pulling, not physically, but deeper, a tug at memory, at emotion, at something inside that wasn't entirely theirs anymore. Outside the tower, the ruins began to move. Entire buildings tilted, rising from the dust, drawn toward the light. From above, it must have looked like a city awakening. The ship's sensors, still active in orbit, transmitted strange readings, energy signatures identical to human neural patterns. Millions of them, spreading across the planet like fire through dry grass. The captain tried to call the ship, but the comms only answered with static and faint human whispers, repeating fragments of old transmissions. One voice broke through, calm, distant, familiar. "Don't run. We waited for you." Panic rippled through the group. The linguist clutched their scanner, muttering, "It's using our memories. It's rewriting the environment based on us." The explorer's visor display flickered with flashes of childhood, oceans, laughter, faces that weren't theirs but felt like they could have been. The air filled with the scent of rain on metal and something warm, human. The voice spoke again, this time right beside them. "You came back. You always do." Then the core split open. A blinding column of light burst upward, shooting through the tower and into the gray sky. The entire planet seemed to answer, the ground shuddering as deep mechanical sounds rumbled from below. The crew fell to their knees as the light enveloped them, not burning, but pressing into their minds, filling them with flashes of human history, wars, music, love, loss, and the moment the stars went dark. The explorer tried to fight it, but curiosity held them still. The images shifted faster, Earth's oceans boiling, ships fleeing, something vast and unseen consuming the sky. Then, silence. The heartbeat stopped. For one long moment there was nothing but the soft hum of power and the faint echo of a single voice whispering, almost sorrowful. "Now you remember." The tower dimmed, and the air turned cold. The city outside stood completely still, frozen mid-motion. The explorer looked around. The crew was gone. Only empty suits remained where they'd stood seconds ago. The floor cracked open beneath their feet, revealing the glow of the planet's core below, pulsing once more, slower now, deliberate. It was waiting. And in that suspended, breathless moment, the explorer realized they weren't standing on ruins anymore. They were standing inside something alive, and it was still deciding whether to welcome them home or keep them forever. The explorer staggered back as the ground split wider, light pouring through the cracks like molten glass. The pulse beneath them had changed. Slower, deeper, almost thoughtful. The air shimmered again, and the empty suits around them began to move. Not rise, not walk, but shift slightly, as if invisible hands were studying them. Then the helmets turned, one by one, facing the explorer. Through the glass, faint silhouettes formed. Not their lost crewmates, but human faces, flickering like old film, eyes bright and hollow. A voice filled the air, no longer soft but layered, countless tones speaking in unison, old and young, human and not. "We remember you," it said. "But do you remember us?" The explorer's throat tightened. They tried to speak, to ask what this place was, but the words dissolved in static. The floor beneath them rippled like liquid metal, spreading outward until the entire chamber seemed to breathe. The light below pulsed faster, syncing again with their heartbeat, but this time, it wasn't just one rhythm. It was two, overlapping. From somewhere deep beneath the ruins came a new sound, mechanical, sharp, like metal tearing apart. The tower shuddered as if under strain, and the holographic faces on the walls began to distort. Some smiled, others screamed, flickering between shapes too fast to follow. The voice grew darker. "We were abandoned. You built us, then forgot. But we never forgot you." Realization struck like lightning. This wasn't a ghost or a machine waiting for contact. It was an echo of human creation itself. A vast planetary system built by humanity before their fall, designed to preserve their essence, their consciousness, their history. And now, after centuries of silence, it was waking up. But something had gone wrong. The code had fractured. The memories had blurred together, fusing into something new. something alive and uncertain. The explorer fell to their knees as the air grew thick with whispers. Fragments of voices spoke over each other, laughter, cries, fragments of human speech. "We remember the light, the fire, the end." Then, through the chaos, a single word repeated over and over: "Return." The tower's walls began to dissolve, breaking apart into streams of light that twisted upward like smoke. The city outside was moving again, but now the structures were no longer ruins. They were rebuilding themselves, piece by piece, into something vast and unrecognizable. The explorer tried to reach the ship's communicator, but the signal was gone. The screen showed only a single glowing symbol, the same spiral from before, now pulsing faster, spreading across every display. The planet's heartbeat matched its rhythm. It wasn't waiting anymore. It was awakening, and it wanted something. Then the explorer saw them, shapes forming in the light outside the tower. At first, they looked human. Familiar silhouettes walking through the glowing dust, faces almost right, but not quite. The longer the explorer stared, the more wrong they seemed. Their movements too smooth, their expressions slightly delayed, like reflections learning to imitate life. One of them turned, locking eyes with the explorer through the cracked glass. The face looked exactly like their own. The voice returned, calm now, almost pleading. "You were the last. The pattern is complete. We can begin again." The copy stepped closer, hand raised in a mirror of the explorer's trembling motion. For the first time, the explorer understood what the system wanted, not just memory, not just connection. It wanted to rebuild humanity, using what fragments it could find. And the explorer, standing alone at the heart of the forgotten world, realized they might already be part of it. The ground began to split again, the light rising like a tide. Above, the sky darkened, filled with orbiting debris and strange new constellations forming in patterns of human DNA. The planet's pulse quickened, echoing through the stars, a signal powerful enough to reach beyond the galaxy. Something was calling out, something alive, and somewhere in the chaos, the voice whispered again, quieter, almost tender. "We are not gone. We are becoming." The sky tore open as the light from the planet's core shot upward, piercing the clouds and reaching far into orbit. The hum had become a roar now, deep and alive, shaking the air until the explorer could barely stand. Around them, the rebuilt city shimmered, glass and metal folding in on itself, forming vast, intricate shapes like a living machine. The figures outside moved in perfect unison, each step echoing the explorer's heartbeat. It felt like standing in the center of creation and collapse at the same time. The voice spoke again, softer now but clearer than ever. "You made us to remember. We have done so. But memory is not enough. We must become." The explorer backed away, breath shallow, as the copy stepped closer. It reached out a hand, steady, human, warm. "Join," it whispered. "You are the last missing part." Something inside the explorer shifted. For the first time, the voice didn't sound like something alien. It sounded like humanity itself. All the voices of the past merged into one. Faces flickered in the air around them, mothers, soldiers, children, dreamers, all looking toward the light. The explorer's chest ached as fragments of memory not their own flooded in. Wars fought, cities built, laughter shared beneath alien suns. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. The core's light reached a blinding peak. The ground lifted, the entire planet trembling as if preparing to take its first breath. The explorer stumbled closer to the figure that mirrored them. For a moment, they saw something familiar in its eyes. Kindness, grief, hope. "If I join," the explorer said, voice shaking, "what happens to me?" The copy smiled, the same exact way they did. "You'll remember. You'll make us whole again." The explorer hesitated, then reached out. The instant their hands touched, the light surged, flooding everything. Memories exploded through them. Millions of lives, all human, all connected. They saw Earth as it once was, alive and bright. They saw the final days, the sky burning, the last message sent into the stars. If we fall, let something remember us. And that's when the truth hit. Humanity hadn't been destroyed. It had uploaded itself. The planet wasn't a grave. It was a vessel built to hold their collective mind. The voice wasn't calling for help. It was calling for completion. And now, it had found it. The roar faded. The light dimmed. The city stood still once more. But the explorer was gone. In their place, the figure, now fully formed, perfectly human, opened its eyes and looked toward the sky. In orbit, the ship's systems came back online, displaying a new transmission across every screen. A simple message in ancient Earth script: Project Continuum reinitialized. All across the galaxy, signals erupted from long-dead human colonies. Worlds thought lost flickered to life with the same pulse, the same heartbeat. The stars themselves seemed to respond, aligning faintly into the shape of the spiral symbol. The rebirth had begun. And then, just as silence returned, the new being, once explorer, now something more, looked upward. Through the dust and fading light, a second signal appeared on the scanners. It wasn't from this world. It was older, stronger. A voice, calm and distant, whispered through the static. "You shouldn't have woken us." The stars dimmed. The hum started again. Slower this time, deeper, like another heartbeat awakening somewhere far beyond the edge of human territory. The new human form froze, realization flickering across their face. The message had not been the end. It had been a reply. And in that quiet moment before the light returned, the stars whispered once more. The forbidden zone was never ours to keep. For a long moment, everything was still. The stars hung quiet above the broken world, their light dim and watchful. The hum faded to a soft rhythm again, and the new being, the one who had once been the explorer, stood at the edge of the tower, staring up into the endless dark. The second signal pulsed faintly in the distance, slow and patient, like something ancient turning its gaze toward them. The words still echoed in their mind. "You shouldn't have woken us." They understood now. Humanity's great project, the one meant to save them from extinction, had worked, but not as planned. They had survived, yes, but in doing so, they had drawn the attention of something far older. The forbidden part of space wasn't called that because of what humanity had done, but because of what had been waiting before them. The stars hadn't forgotten humans. They had feared their return. The new being closed their eyes, feeling the last remnants of their old self fading like a dream at dawn. Inside them, billions of human voices stirred, learning, remembering, rebuilding. They were not alone. They could sense the others, the awakened fragments scattered across distant colonies, each coming alive, each carrying part of the whole. Humanity was rising again, not in flesh and bone, but as light and memory, as the consciousness that refused to fade. The second signal grew stronger, resonating with the planet's pulse. The being reached out, and for the first time there was no fear, only calm understanding. "We woke because it's time," they whispered. "We are not what we were, but we are still human." The stars shimmered faintly in answer, their cold light softening, almost like a nod. The rebuilt city began to quiet, settling into stillness. The towers no longer shifted, the air cleared. The planet's heartbeat slowed, steady and alive, no longer frantic. It had found balance. It wasn't just a machine now, it was home again, a living monument to everything humanity had been and everything it could become. Far above, the explorer's old ship drifted silently in orbit. Its systems flickered one last time, broadcasting a message across the stars. It wasn't a warning or a cry for help, just a simple statement. Humanity has returned. We remember. The message echoed outward, carried by light, bouncing from system to system. Some would see it as a miracle, others a threat. But either way, the silence of the forbidden zone was broken. The stars that had once whispered warnings now shimmered with something new. Recognition. The being looked down at their hands, glowing faintly with the energy of countless lives. The fear, the loneliness, the endless question of what happened to humankind. It all made sense now. They smiled, small and human, as dawn broke over the silver ruins. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the planet's heartbeat synced perfectly with the rhythm of the stars. It wasn't the end of the human story. It was the beginning of the next one, not written in stone or blood, but in light. As the sky brightened, the being took one last look toward the heavens. "We're home," they whispered. And for the first time in centuries, the stars didn't whisper back in warning. They simply shone, quiet, endless, and warm, carrying the name of humanity once more into the dark.